Welcome back to the Bit by Bit podcast. In today's episode, I speak with Aleks Svetski. We actually recorded this episode a couple of weeks ago, so I apologise it's getting out a little bit late. Things have been crazy busy, and I've also got a puppy very recently. He's a lovely little bloke, but he doesn't particularly like to sleep, which means I've got very little. Anyway, despite the episode getting out a little bit late, I think that the topics that we discuss are very important. They're the real reason I started this podcast. Although it's mainly a Bitcoin podcast, what I really care about is freedom. During the episode, Alex and I discuss coronavirus, freedom, and Bitcoin. I hope you enjoy. Alex, thanks very much for joining me today. Like I said just before we took the call, I'd like to go through, well, first of all, it'd be really nice to start with where were you and what were you doing? Or can you remember what you were doing when you first heard about or found out about Bitcoin?
First of all, thanks for having me on, man. But
Pleasure.
What the fuck was I doing? I mean, I can't pinpoint. Like it depends. Like I think about Bitcoin in two phases. Once was like the first time I heard about it and just sort of dismissed it, and that was back in the gold bug days. And if anyone's ever listened to my podcast, they've heard me sort of tell my Genesis story about probably seeing Max Kaiser jumping up and down on a fucking couch. Back in
I love him.
Yeah, 2011, 2012 or some shit, telling people to buy Bitcoin. And then that kind of shit actually turned me off Bitcoin in the early days, to be honest, because I was like, what the fuck are maniacs talking about? So I just sort of stuck with, with gold and silver at the time to my everlasting regret. So, that was probably my first, time hearing about it, but not really listening. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference between hearing and listening. And
yes,
when I started to listen was probably in 2016. And again, I think it was actually a friend of mine who the guy was a junkie actually. I'm pretty sure he was just buying shit on the dark net, and he sort of mentioned Bitcoin again, and we're at his fucking apartment in Sydney or something like that, and he was just rambling on about how a friend of his made a bunch of money out of Bitcoin, blah blah blah. Kind of mentioned it again, and I was like, yeah, okay, interesting, but the guy was a junkie, so
you don't take it too serious.
Yeah, and it was only really probably a couple months after that I'd had a scuffle with the board of directors from a prior company that I was with, sort of disagreement in the direction we should be taking the company. And I moved away from that company, and found myself looking for something else to do, sink my teeth into. And I decided to have a look at Bitcoin, see what all the hype was about. And the more I read, the more interesting it was. I've got a little saying that I always put out. How people say things like, I came for, the trades and then I stayed for the freedom or whatever. I came for this, I stayed for that. And I've got a saying, which is, I came for the money and I stayed for the money. So I came to make a bit of money because I was looking for an opportunity, and then I definitely stayed for the money, which is the actual revolution here. So man, and I guess Bitcoin has a way of, depending on your level of curiosity and your viewpoints about life, it has a way of really sucking you in, and it hasn't stopped.
So you found out 2016, and then did you dive straight in and really start researching and just haven't looked up, or did it take a little bit of time?
No, I was actually pretty quick, I must admit. Because I'd already had the whole gold bug background initially. I'd spent time I was involved in tech, so there was just a lot of things that interested me. And I must admit, in the beginning, I thought that there was something there with blockchain. I thought that there was something there with Ethereum and all that sort of stuff in the beginning. But I quickly, the faster and quicker I dove in, the quicker I realized that all of that fucking shit was like complete just scams. You know, ICO thing really pissed me off. Like there was just so much garbage there, and like I kind of, not to blow smoke up my butt, but I kind of like to really get my hands dirty when I find out about something, and really dig, and I must admit, the one person who strongly influenced me in the beginning was Andreas.
That's a common theme for anyone who's I think anyone who's in this who really cares about this, and it's not just about money, it is about societal change. It seems to be a common theme that you've learned from Andreas, and it's sparked something in you, and you've gone, shit, this is big, and then it goes from there. That seems
his early stuff was incredible. I mean, he's gone off the rails, you know, more recently.
The Ethereum stuff.
Exactly. There's a lot of things I just don't agree with him, but I mean, whatever. Each their own. You know, he played his part. Exactly. For a lot of people that sort of came in between, I'd say 2014 to 2016. Like, I think a lot of those guys who are interested, I find had quite a bit of inspiration from Andreas. So he played a role there. Yeah.
And then so from Andreas, it was then a case of, I guess if you were already into gold and silver, and I'm guessing there was a sort of libertarian-y streak possibly, or a Austrian economics.
I've always had an anti-authoritarian streak. And you know,
excellent. We like that.
Just a natural, like, you know, rebellious streak. Like, you know, I've always been, you know, I've always got myself into trouble. My life story is one of, you know, immense highs and crazy lows, and, you know, fucking all sorts of dramas, which, you know, one day will make for a hilarious book. And you know, the common theme has always been me sort of pushing the envelope. And yeah, man, just the idea of personal sovereignty and personal liberty, like, I really hold those highly, and you know, Bitcoin's alignment with those two principles really just resonates with me and fuels my fervor around it.
There was I was just reading through an article that you'd put out, The Rise of the Individual. And you had an interesting part where you said right at the beginning, it's that thing which protagonist Winston Smith of Orwell's seminal piece 1984 was unknowingly calling out. And that line there really resonated with me, because that book scares the shit out of me. And anyone who's listening to this, go and read that piece. I'm going to link it in the show notes, but yeah, like you're saying, I think it is what is the key to unlocking all of this, and it's what he was searching for, but it wasn't a possibility then, and it is now, and that's so powerful. Well, it blows my mind every day, and clearly yours, and that's why you're here.
Yeah, I mean that piece that I wrote is sort of what I think, and it's pinned on my Twitter. It's like, I think it's the most important thing I've ever written, and it really distills my thesis around why Bitcoin's important more than anything else. That quote, I think you just really nailed it there. Like, in pulling that piece out, is, you know, Winston was, you know, screaming out for something, but, you know, as we know, or for those who have read Orwell's book, like, it doesn't end well, and you know, I guess in the absence of something like Bitcoin, you know, we'd all be very much marching in the same direction. So yeah, man, I see it as the most important innovation of modern times, man. It just brings chills down my spine when I think about, you know, without that as a lifeboat, or without that as an option, fuck, man. Like,
we're fucked without it. We are fucked.
Well, at least the concept of personal liberty and personal sovereignty is completely fucked. You know, we may find a way to adapt as human beings and live as fucking drones, managed by the state and all that sort of stuff. And, we might be able to, I kind of view life as this game you can play with, within some bounds, right? So you've got like, these barriers on either side, and the wider those barriers are, the richer life can be, because you can have some sort of amplitude, and you have some sort of freedom to move. But what's happening in the world is that those bounds, those barriers are sort of getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And we can, most people live relatively, with low amplitude, low modulation. They're right in the middle, and they're fucking average, that sort of middle of the bell curve kind of thing. So most people won't get up and revolt, and they won't even notice those bounds being tightened. But those of us who want to be extraordinary, want to be different, want to make an impact on the world, where all change and discovery and all that sort of stuff comes from is by playing, as close to the bounds as possible. Being outside of the central distribution of that bell curve. And the tighter and tighter those bounds get, it's those of us who respect and value freedom, discovery, exploration, all of those things, that we feel that first, and we're the first ones who start to rally around that. So I guess where I'm going with that is, without Bitcoin, we would have to also, as the free thinkers of society, operate within a narrower bound. And maybe we could, survive and live that kind of life and all that sort of shit. But holy fucking crap, man, that's not a life one looks forward to, unfortunately.
It's survival, not thriving. It's surviving.
Exactly. It's a very, like, as I picture it, I just think of like a fucking, a gray sort of scene. It's all those. It's the real manifestation of those dystopian futures that we've, whether read in books or watched on films. It's fucking sad, man. Like, I think as much as life and humans are messy, the color and the beauty comes in the mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the more you allow that mess to occur, and the more you allow people to to express and figure it out themselves, the freer, stronger, and more prosperous I think society has an opportunity to become. But the more you fucking quench that shit, the grayer, duller, drabber it fucking gets. And man, seriously, like without a tool like Bitcoin, I think we'd be in a position where we don't have much of a choice. So yeah, that's what the blessing is, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it feels, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but certainly in the UK, when I came across Bitcoin, I was at a point where I'd been involved in lots of different things. And for the last couple of years before finding Bitcoin, I'd got to the point where every business idea, everything I ever thought of doing, everything I wanted to do, I just went, fuck that. The regulation's too hard. There's too much of a barrier to entry. It's stacked against me. Unless you've got a serious amount of money and backing, it's just too hard. And the regulations are there to stifle my innovation. And I'd got to a stage of feeling like, is this something that we can fight against? And then I found Bitcoin. I was like, oh, holy shit. Okay. Yeah, this is how we win. Like you said, that you find the color in the madness and in the mess. And sometimes you've got to try some stuff, and some things have got to go wrong before it works. To have everything pre-planned and so regimented and regulated, it just makes the world fucking boring.
Yeah, if you look, the question comes down to, are you on the side of life? And life is a story of trial and error. If you subscribe to any form of fucking scientific logic, you see the development of life, whether from the Big Bang through to, the creation of life on the planet, and, single-celled organisms through to the amoebas, through to fucking, the animals that predate us, through to, you know, where we are now. It's this messy evolutionary process of, you know, things coming together. And like, if you're on the side of that, if you're on the side of life, you need to be on the side of allowing things to find their own fucking way, without trying to constantly prod and intervene. Like it's you know, complex systems, like like the two things you don't fuck with in my mind is you don't fuck with biology and you don't fuck with economics. You know, and you know, they're way too complex for us to ever properly understand, and properly be able to you know, whether you want to call it managing, whether you want to call it you know, operating. Like they should just be allowed to just do their fucking thing and you know, kind of find natural equilibrium themselves. And natural equilibrium, like what freaks people out, and this is one of the I guess the stupidities of humans, is you know, the process of natural equilibrium freaks us out because it is messy, but that is by definition what life looks like. And it's how systems, whether micro or macro, you know, fractally speaking all the way through, systems learn that way. When I was on the podcast with, you know, McCormack, I was trying to talk about, you know, why do pain receptors exist in the body? Well, pain receptors exist not just to fucking, you know, show you pain for fuck's sake. Like, it's to teach you, you know, it's to help you self-regulate and self-correct. And, you know, what we consistently do in society, whether it's, you know, from a health and, you know, biological perspective, whether it's from an emotional perspective, whether it's from a fucking psychological, mental, economic, we try and fucking remove the pain receptors by masking underlying problems and dealing with just the symptoms. And the more and more we do that, the more we stray from, you know, reality, the more we stray from the underlying, all in this bid to like fucking avoid a little bit of pain. And what happens is we have zero fucking context back to A, you know, where and even what fucking reality is anymore. And B, we become even softer and more afraid of experiencing pain, which perpetuates the problem. And then you've got a scenario where, you know, you hide the problem, you hide the risk so much that at some point in time, because again, you know, we're part of a broader context of life, something messy inevitably happens, like we've seen with Corona, and everything fucking blows up. And it's yeah, man, I don't know when the thinking will change, but you know, Bitcoin again, like I've just finished up writing a new article that talks about Bitcoin and the halving, and it's not a fucking article on, you know, discussing the stock to flow and price and all that sort of shit again. It's an article that talks about how Bitcoin and the halving represents a divergence or a fork in the road in the kind of thinking that's prevalent in society today. You know, in society today, it's all about more, now, cover the pain, you know, excess. Whereas the halving represents something extraordinarily different. It's like 180 degrees in the opposite direction. And it talks about something diminishing in supply, you know, something becoming more strict, more scarce. It's the opposite of this fucking blind abundance for abundance sake mindset. And for me, that's so symbolic. It's so different to the prevailing narrative. And it's just, I don't know, man. The more I think about it, the more, you know, I just feel like this has, you know, this is such a historic moment in history.
Yeah. I mean, when we first jumped on the call and you said, you know, you're a busy person, you're doing all sorts of things and you get bored quickly. And I can relate to that. And one thing, I don't know if you found this the same, this is the first time in my life I've ever been interested in something, and then my interest only grows. And I've never had that. Normally I'll start something, I'll do it for a couple of months or a year, and I'll be excited, and then something else takes my attention, and I think, oh, there's flaws in it because of X and Y. I mean,
I couldn't agree more.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, dude. I say that to everybody because and everyone knows me as this traditionally serial entrepreneur kind of guy. Like I've done so many things, I've tried so many things. Like I've experimented with so many different businesses, and like everyone's always been under the assumption that Alex is doing something new every couple of years. But this is the one thing that just. I mean, I have nowhere near peaked. Like, you think about something that just continues to suck you in. I'm so much more interested, intrigued, and fucking captivated now than I was at the beginning. And I've never experienced that in my life with anything. Not with girlfriends, not with nothing in my life. Seriously.
It is weird. I assume that is why you come up with the idea of Amber. And we're getting a little bit into sort of what it is you're trying to do with Amber. But my question is, what was the motivation for it? Obviously, you believe in Bitcoin. It seems like the business model is obviously set up to it's dollar cost averaging, as far as I can tell, and try to save people the fucking pain that me and I think everyone I've ever spoken to has had when you come in, you think you're really smart, you think you can trade, and you just get wrecked. And it makes a lot of sense to me. So how did it come about? What was your thinking behind it?
Well, I mean, I was interested in the space, so and me just being entrepreneurial in nature, wanted to do something. And I just heard the same old problems and objections. I'd tell people to buy Bitcoin, and I'd hear, oh, it's too hard, I don't know where, I don't know how much, and all this sort of shit. I'm like, just fucking buy $50 a week, man. And they're like, oh, fucking, where do I do that? And the more I thought about that, like, I was familiar with a product called Acorns in the US, which there's one called Moneybox in the UK, I think. Yep. And the idea of like, rounding up your spare change. And I just thought, fuck, what better place to round up your spare change into an asset with such asymmetric upside. So that was sort of the first iteration of the product. We ditched that whole roundup and spare change version of the product because what we found was, it went against a lot of the core premises of what Bitcoin and what I personally stand for, around privacy and financial privacy and all that sort of stuff. Like we in order for an app to do roundups, it requires full carte blanche access to your bank statements and all your transactions. Because it's got to look at the transaction and work out the roundup, right? So so we kind of dumped that version of the product and went with something just simpler, cleaner, neater, which was set an amount, set a frequency, and let the thing just accumulate Bitcoin in the background for you. And that's the premise. And I guess it also for me represents again a difference in thinking where you had the shitcoin casinos, as I call them, like the Binances and Krakens and all that sort of shit of the world sort of rise up, between 2016, particularly 2017 and 18, as places where fucking degenerates could, go and satisfy their gambling addictions. Hey, I had my degenerate moment, as a lot of, people, did. At times we all need to climb Mount Stupid, and I kind of climbed up really quickly and fucking ran back down the other side as quickly as I could. I wanted to build Amber as kind of like a different or a different. I wanted to build it with a different ethos than that again, which was this idea of slowly accumulating wealth over a period of time for the long term. And Amber is not optimized for you to quickly buy and sell and do all that sort of shit. It's like purely designed for you to set it up, link your card or your bank account and just accumulate Bitcoin really slowly, whatever frequency you want, and then withdraw it out to your wallet and Bob's your uncle. Like that's how simple it's designed to be. And we'll never list another asset class. We don't need to. We'll never list another fucking shit coin. Like that stuff is not what we're about. We want to be a Bitcoin accumulation app, and and I just want to be known as the place you go to intelligently accumulate and acquire Bitcoin. So simple as that. Like there's nothing else to it.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's literally, when I first, like you say, I went through all that crazy trading bullshit, realized I was useless at it. And then when people, friends and family come to me, I literally do that to them. I'm like, well, just buy a little bit every month because it's the safest thing, so they don't shit themselves when it suddenly drops in half because it's only £20 a month or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. See, you need to get yourself over to the UK, because I'm having to do it for all my friends and family and keep track and fuck about with it. And we've got no one useful in the UK who does it, as far as I'm aware. And I get pissed off because I have people phone me up and go, oh my God, Bitcoin dropped 50%. And I go, fuck off. You put £40 in it over the last 3 months. I'm doing it for you as a favor. Just go away or I'll buy it off you. And I get all that nonsense. So you need to start in the UK so I can send them to you.
I am literally, before you called me, I was emailing my UK lawyer to set up a call for next week. So I will be in the UK soon, man. Assuming that we can get some of this
regulation stuff,
regulatory and banking bullshit. Like one of the bigger dramas are actually the banks being wankers and not allowing you to operate a bank account.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that it does come here, and if it does, you have to let me know, and I'll send you some people.
100%, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really nice product, and it's literally I feel it's what you would advise people you actually care about to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, you don't want to send them to fucking Coinbase and then they see 100 other assets and they're suddenly phoning you saying, oh, well, can I buy Dentacoin? And you're like, oh, God's sake, I've told you just go on and buy Bitcoin. Just do as you're told and then don't whinge. So it is a nice product. So I hope that happens. We talked a little bit about freedom and why it's important in that respect. But I think what people find confusing, or certainly when I try and explain to people, because of the sort of Bitcoin fixes this meme, and it does seem to fix so many things, it's difficult to explain that, okay, yes, it can allow freedom, and yes, it's uncensorable and all the rest of it. But I think at the core of it, the fact that this is, I think, and it, definitely from reading through what you're writing, you think this is the best money ever. Can you explain to the listeners, what is it that makes this good money, and why is it so much better than what we have now?
Okay, well, I guess money is this emergent phenomenon, and we've sort of seen it evolve over the years as basically a method for allowing human beings who may or may not know each other to collaborate and cooperate. Like what makes us human and what makes us dominant on the planet is that ability to cooperate. And, we cooperate based on all sorts of different stories. And, some people call them shared fictions, some people call them hallucinations. I think, hallucinations and fictions sort of give it the wrong sort of premise. But, money fundamentally is a story, but it's a fucking true story. It's something that represents what we do as a species on the planet, which is we spend time and energy, performing acts and functions and things, and society is just merely a collection of all of these acts and functions and things, some which we value, some which we don't, which we kind of measure in some way, shape, or form in order for us to collaborate and cooperate, and that form of measure, has over the years, become known as, money. And like what a lot of people don't understand is, like, you can't have society, you can't have broad collaboration amongst, participants of a group without money, without something to represent the work or the labor or the time or the energy or the effort that the different participants or the constituents of the society input. You just can't. That doesn't exist. So, if money is sort of this, real foundational layer of society, it's sort of at the base. When that thing functions properly, you have an opportunity for, to build society on a good foundation. If it doesn't, then you basically, you build society on a really poor foundation, and you have all of these, externalities and these effects that occur, or these symptoms, and you think those symptoms are the problem. Again, it comes back to that symptomatic versus causal thinking. Is you have these weird fucking distortions that happen, that are second, third, fourth, fifth order consequences, or n order consequences, much further down the track, which you have no idea where they fucking came from or what they exist, and you sort of mask them up as well, in sort of keep this band-aid, society together, without understanding that the base is broken, and the whole Bitcoin fixes this meme. It's based on the idea that you fix the base, and you may not fix everything, because human beings and collective excess has its own fucking dramas. But if you can fix this piece, which is the element through which we measure time, labor, effort, energy, value, production, all these really important concepts in society, you fix that, you will have a fucking extraordinary flow and effect into every other element of society and of human life. And if we come back to again, the money conversation is over time, what we found was, this unit of measurement, this thing called money, functions best when it, has particular attributes and it performs particular functions. And, a lot of people have spoken about, the function of money and all this sort of stuff. So, like, really touching on it briefly here is, money, that thing should be something that, can function as a means of exchange, can, function as a store of value, and can function as a what do you call it? As a way to, as a unit of account, as a way to measure as well, and sort of, and those functions are, very related to themselves as well. Without it being a unit of account, you can't really have medium exchange. You can't measure it. Without it being a store of value, you don't have anything to exchange. But without having the exchange function, it's not storing any value, and you can't measure. So they're all interrelated in essence. It's sort of like a nice delineation in function there that you can make to help people understand it. Now, an object or a good that has specific attributes that is not consumable effectively can be used to act as the medium for those functions, and that's something that has good durability, good divisibility, good portability. It's easily recognized. It's the same throughout. So that way, it's fungibility is actually the other one. So it's like there's no point in using a form of money if it's fucking different for everybody. And then the two most important ones, I think, is the impossible, or the difficulty to forge, and its scarcity. Those last two are sort of the ones that have been forgotten over the last couple hundred years, as money has really become the basis for the emergence of a modern economy. And what we've managed to do is to make money, more portable, more divisible, etc., but in the process sacrificed its scarcity and difficulty to forge. And what that's done is that's basically undermined the very essence of what money is supposed to represent, which is time, effort, energy. Money is a contract for future work, effectively. It's a form of credit, and if you can just create it without tying it to some sort of work, or at least a contract for future work, you basically you break the element in society that makes society function, and that's why money is so fucking structurally important, and that's why having a structurally sound form of money is so important. And if I tie all of that back to Bitcoin is the most fungible, divisible, portable, scarce, impossible to fucking forge form of money that has ever existed, and it scores a 10 out of 10 in every single one of those attributes of money, and as a result can perform the functions of money better than anything else in the world ever can or ever will hope to. And yeah, man, if we continue building Bitcoin's critical mass the way it's been building, and continue compounding and deepening that liquidity, this thing will change the world more than anything else we've ever done.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The only one thing that concerns me is actually the fungibility. But I do see that it seems we're moving in the right direction. That is really all I can say on that one. And I hope that, obviously we want the perfect privacy, but then we need to know that we can guarantee that there is a finite supply, and it's a trade-off, I suppose, is the thing. But
that's the verifiability versus individual privacy argument, which is going to be, I think, one of the things that we'll be battling each other over once Corona's fucking finished. But,
it's gonna end the world, isn't it? Corona, everyone's gonna. That's what everyone's told me. Everyone in England has told me they're all cheering. They're all cheering here.
You better stay in your fucking house, mate. You better stay in your fucking house.
Honestly, I'm getting messages from people, text messages saying, "Oh, isn't it amazing what the government are doing? It's amazing. It's so good how they're handling the situation." And I heard on the Peter McCormack episode you did recently, you were talking about the first thing they should do is to give out tests. And that is what I've been saying to people for so long. And every time I say that to someone, it's like, oh, well, if they care so much, why haven't they given us fucking hand sanitizer or tested anyone? And it's like, they just go, oh, well, you can't actually do tests, and, you can't give hand sanitizer to everyone. It'd be too expensive. You're like, well, run the maths. How much does hand sanitizer cost? How much does, and everyone certainly here is just literally, they watch the news, they recite it, they send it to each other on Facebook, and then pray to the government. It's unbelievable.
Mass delusion, my friend. Fucking mass delusion. It makes me, I was thinking about this earlier, is this is the importance of pain in any system, is that, pain or suffering or trouble or crisis or whatever, basically helps peel back the layers and the lapping effectively. And what it does is, people who supposedly call themselves, libertarian, all that sort of stuff, who are so quick to drop their ideals when the first sign of trouble comes, it just sort of shows you who really will stand by their beliefs and convictions, and who's just there to fucking live action role play, right? And and it angers me, the amount of people that I've seen who, without question, people that I even thought were supposedly fucking smart, without question, be like, all right, well, normally I'm a libertarian, but in this scenario, I'm a statist. It's like, well, it's like saying, I don't know, man. I don't even want to bother finding an analogy now.
Yeah.
It's like, when it's easy, I'll do it. When it's hard, I won't. And it's just, that is just so reminiscent and evident of how weak society has become in general, is that we'll only do things when it feels fucking good and cushy. When it's, a little bit scary, it doesn't matter.
And as long as you can get a selfie and tell everyone that you've done it on Facebook.
It's fucking cheap, man. It is fucking cheap. So I've, it's just been interesting for me to watch. And for a long time, I didn't say anything about Corona for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks. I just shut the fuck up and I was just watching. And then at just one point, I just got really fucking pissed off about it, man. So then I just started ranting about it, and obviously jumped on McCormack's show and the one prior to that. And it was just like, I don't know, I've grown a lot of respect for people like, Parabolic Trav and Hodlnaut and stuff like that, because, we sort of aligned in our thinking around, and none of us is saying that Corona is not real. I haven't heard anybody say that. What I've heard is that, hey, yeah, this thing is real, but as soon as you start prodding and fucking with a complex system, you don't make it better. You actually make, the situation worse, because you create, feedback loops and externalities that you just have no fucking clue how they're going to how they're going to manifest themselves, or what the second, third, fourth, fifth order consequences are going to be. You have no fucking idea, man. And the more you touch it, without letting it find its own equilibrium, all you do is extend the fucking pain, you extend the drama, you extend the problems, you hide the risks, and it's the same fucking story over and over again. And like, if every time a crisis happens, you come back to, oh, well, we just need to do it this one more time. Like, it is no different to a degenerate fucking junkie, fucking needling themselves one more time, and saying that they won't do it next time. It's so blatantly obvious to me, and a few others, but I don't know. Fear has a way of like bringing out.
It's powerful.
The weakness in people, man.
Yeah, it's powerful fear. It's I've definitely seen, like you said, I've seen some very, very smart people that I had a lot of respect for completely just bend the knee because of it. And how do we get around it? Do you feel that, say for example, I don't even know what percentage we are, people who are interested in Bitcoin or really interested, say it's 0.25% or whatever, if it gains enough traction and it gets enough liquidity and it does start to permeate into normal society more and more, do you think that it can change these behavioral patterns and give people a different time preference and start to wake them up and get them to sit up and go, hold on, I was being fucking stupid before and now I understand? Or do you think that there's just a level of people who just literally will never care, and they just have to, if this thing takes off, they just have to stay with their state money, lose their purchasing power, and we're going to end up with citadels? Like, or is there a middle ground? What's your thoughts on the future with it?
Look, I was trying to say with McCormack on the call, I was sort of talking about, I think he quoted me, it's you can't get rid of shit cunts, all you can do is limit the amount that shit cunts can do, or something like that. Anyway,
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So I was kind of like trying to say that, if society is like this slope and there's water flowing down the slope, like the best we could do is, the water's going to flow anyway, is we want to carve some grooves that are better grooves, I guess. And what Bitcoin does is it has base ingredients which are what I would say better long-term incentives. Things like a limited supply doesn't instantaneously incentivize blind consumption without regard to its cost. So you can save. You don't have to go and fucking randomly invest in shit that you don't understand. The fact that you can't create more of it inherently incentivizes people to think twice about how they deploy capital, how they use capital, how they draw credit, because they know that if they destroy their own capital, there's no way to just create more of it by turning on some random fucking printers. So I think it from a societal standpoint, creates these different grooves that make the make us approach reality slightly differently. Now, what's that going to look like? I think initially it's going to attract certain types of people, like the me's and you's of the world, like the Travs and the Holdemorts and all that sort of stuff. And it's going to attract us. Now, the beauty of Bitcoin, because it's a monetary, call it monster, like it's a monetary phenomenon. Those of us who get attracted to it and stay involved in it, we are going to get very wealthy, comparatively speaking, out of it. And because money is, the measurement for, prosperity, in a sense, in any society, we're going to get noticed, and that, inherent desire to be prosperous, to thrive as human beings, is going to drive more people to want to learn about it. And that sort of came for the money, stayed for the money concept, I think, is going to continue to grow. And I mean, we live in a world that's far more interconnected these days. Ideas go viral quicker. Concepts spread. I do hope that more people with sense get attracted to Bitcoin for those reasons, because there's that core group, that intolerant minority, who've not moved from the initial thesis. And I think it's just a layering effect. Now, this isn't going to take 10 years before we got some fucking citadels and we're safe. Like, I think this is going to take many decades to go through the system. And the problem is, the prevailing blind consumption oriented state. They're not going to give up easily. They're going to get more draconian. They're going to get fucking more stupid. They're going to do dumber things. I personally don't think, I think in 12 months' time, Corona is going to be a distant memory, and that markets will likely bounce back, and that everyone's going to think everything's fucking all happy again. But there's going to be a big question mark around, Federal Reserve, fucking Mr. Infinity, and all of that sort of stuff. So I feel like this Ponzi scheme's got one more major push left in it before something really structural breaks down the track. And,
sadly, because everyone that I speak to, I mean, I've been running this podcast for a year, and I've been annoying everyone for like 2.5 or something, telling them this system's going to fucking crash. I was in property before, and I was like selling everything off, and I was saying to everyone, please sell, and if you have any stocks, sell. This thing is going to crash. This is going to crash. And they're like, oh yeah, fuck off, whatever. And now it's crashed, and I speak to them and I'm like, look, I told you this was going to happen. Not in a gloating, but just like, I told you, do you want to listen to me now? Why? And listen to why this was going to happen. Well, it's Corona. And that's the reason now that we have all these problems. There's an underlying problem that Corona has caused all of this. So I think you're right. It's probably got to be at least 1 or 2 more serious crashes, because they still won't wake up, which is sad.
Exactly. And this is why I believe that we're going to have another strong run at the Ponzi, is that not enough people are waking up. There's a convenient excuse. Now, last time we had the excuse of, it was the bankers, the previous time it was the terrorists, the previous time it was the tech people, the previous time it was the, the bond market or whatever the fuck it was. And, although it was the Russian, they fucked it up. So there's been an excuse now, the next time around, like, they're basically running out of excuses as to why the system broke down. And they're reaching a point where, the string has nothing left to pull. Like, you're really pushing now on the string. And I don't know, I just, next time around, a real absence of excuses, and because things are so connected and everything like that, it'll be very hard to kind of sweep the money printing and the so-called solution from this time under the rug. So I don't know. This thing is obviously a car spiraling out of control, and I feel like they're gonna somehow get the illusion of momentary control back, but on a grander scale. It's gonna get very messy later on. Now, what does that look like? How does that progress? I don't know. I guess that this is where Bitcoin and its perfection really lie, is that during that period, the incentive to be involved in something that a bunch of crazy people, like I'm talking about me, you, and the parabolic Travs of the world have been saying is an alternative, the incentive to learn about an alternative is going to just continue to grow, and that's just going to gain more and more and more momentum as the prevailing status quo not only loses momentum, but loses control. And it's going to be a fucking sight to see, man. I mean, I don't know what catastrophes lie ahead, but
They're going to be big.
They will be, and we're just going to have a chance to at least shelter ourselves from a wealth perspective, and wealth is extremely important. And then I think we just need to band together now as Bitcoiners and start thinking about other things that we need to prep. And I don't mean to sound like a doomsdayer, but there's we are seriously seeing shit happen in society that we've that is genuinely unprecedented. So we're going to have to prep for a lot of things, and whether that's trying to come up with our own supply chains that are built around Bitcoin businesses that allow us to to move physical stuff around the world without reliance on morons, etc., etc. It's like we're going to need to rethink things. Whether that's the creation of communities around like smaller little mini cities or whatever around the world that that are purely Bitcoin denominated. Whether we can buy them from failing states or whatever the case is, and just sort of operate themselves. Learning how to farm and create food, and learning how to defend ourselves and all this sorts of stuff. Like there's going to be such a different set of skills and interests that people are going to need to develop. And again, I think a lot of Bitcoiners are at the forefront of this and thinking about this more so than most other people who are just sitting there frightened in their lounge room, fucking locked up in their house waiting for the government to save them, basically. So we are the resistance, man. And without sounding too fucking tinfoil hat, like we've got to start planning. We've got the economic tool now. We've got to get all the other things ready over the next 10 years, because the next catastrophe is going to just be larger. And we all need to have a backup plan that's viable, and the strength in numbers.
Yeah, get things ready, basically. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, like I said before, I'm pleased that products or apps like Amber are available. I'm pleased that more and more Bitcoiners seem to be throwing themselves into this, and in all different aspects and all different areas, things seem to be getting better. And all I'm trying to do with my podcast is to wake people up, let them understand why this is important, and try and point them in the right direction. And as soon as you get your product over here in the UK, just give me a shout and I will let people know, because I think it is the safest and the best way for people to get involved. And once they got a little bit, even if it's a tiny amount, it gives them that incentive. It's that skin in the game. Until someone's got a little bit of skin in the game, they're not going to bother to do any research, and they are just going to sit on the couch at home watching Netflix, like you say, and waiting for the government to help them.
Yeah, man. And thank you for the work you're doing, bro. Like, honestly, these pods are, I mean, as much as, I sometimes give podcasters shit, like, cause I mean, and even I was podcasting at one point, and like, there's just, podcasts about podcasts these days. Like they're everywhere. It's actually important to just explore these ideas, which is, and the fact that people like you and, everyone sort of, that are podcasting sort of take time out of their own schedule to go and dig deeper and, talk to people and put this information forward. Like, you guys are a big part of that fucking front line. You guys are the counterculture to, the mainstream media fucking monkeys who are out there, regurgitating nonsensical dog shit that adds no value to people's lives. So,
that's it. I mean, it's well, thank you. And like I said before, this is literally just, it's something I do because I got sick of bleating onto people and them not being interested and sounding like the crazy tinfoil hat bloke in the room, and everything anyone said, I was like, no, that's bollocks because X, Y, and Z. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put my thoughts online once a week, speak to some interesting people. And if people want to listen, they listen. And in normal life now, I just shut up. Just don't even talk about this stuff. It's fucking pointless.
Oh man, so true, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, thank you. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. If you ever find yourself in London, it'd be great to catch up for a beer or something, and be nice to meet. And,
well,
and like I said,
I'm planning to be there in a couple of months, so we'll
cool.
Yeah, definitely catch up.
Excellent. All right, I look forward to it. Thanks again, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
100%, man. Thank you for having me on.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
See you, bud.